Hearts on for science. The excitement that science possesses is the ability to answer the big questions. Science communication, therefore, is important to inform, educate and raise awareness of science-related topics amongst the general public and a non-expert audience. As a curator, I'm working in the Boerhaven Museum, the National Science Museum in Leiden. And I get up every morning excited to share the great stories that the history of science and its recent developments have to tell. I want to create entry points for dialogue and transform the way we look at science, to enjoy and share the amazing adventure science is. But back to these grand questions. Solving these questions is the reason that scientists all over the world get up in the morning and go to work and try to find answers. These answers have an impact on our daily lives, and therefore it's important to all of us that we know how we relate to science and its impact on society at large. I work in a science museum as a curator of modern day science. That means that I collect objects, study them and make exhibits. On a daily basis, I'm in touch with our audiences, and what I've noticed is that the connection between the general public and the developments in science are difficult to comprehend for a lot of people. The last decades have seen incredible breakthroughs that have opened up completely new areas of research, never imagined before. The discovery of the Higgs particle, sometimes referred to as the God particle, wouldn't be possible without the immense super collider at the European Council for Nuclear Research, otherwise known as CERN. The recent discovery of a black hole in our solar system wouldn't have been possible if a global system of connected telescopes wasn't technically possible. Researchers are now able to analyze DNA sequences in just minutes, at any place in the world, even in space. The introduction of computers has reshaped the scientific workspace as well. Computational power enabled the development of complex computer models used in climate research or compelling outbreak models for the COVID pandemic. In short, science has become increasingly complex, immensely digital and more intangible, which means that you can't touch it anymore, like a black hole. As a museum curator, I want to try and bring the science to the people. And therein lays my challenge. It is impossible to collect a black hole. I mean, it's too far away, it's too large, it doesn't fit in a museum. Even so for neutrinos, elemental particles that are not visible under a microscope. They are simply too small. Or climate models. They are not hands-on. They exist as digital data and live inside hard disks in data centers. But what means do science museums have to show and tell the stories of contemporary science? We try and do this via 3 different ways, with hands-on, minds-on and hearts-on. I will explain. Hands-on means that people can learn with their hands. Exhibits encourage people to touch and interact. Minds-on means that visitors are guided by text or media to learn about a specific subject. Hands-on and minds-on are important, but hearts-on is often overlooked and ignored in science museums. And it's exactly with this hearts-on where we can find the connection between science and the audience. Hearts-on is based on triggering emotions like wow. It stirs curiosity and activates one's imagination. This is key. Once you can imagine the existence of a black hole, then you can more easily relate to an otherwise incomprehensible object in front of you. And it's exactly this, what the power of an object can be. If treated in the right way, I have to say. If treated in the right way, it triggers your imagination. But we need new ways to get visitors' hearts on. We need new ways of collecting and exhibiting to be able to collect and show the materiality of the development of contemporary science. In my work, I use 3 categories of objects to represent what I mentioned before. The first, the beautiful, and the ordinary. An example of such a first is the moon rock from the Apollo 11 mission, taken back to the Earth from the moon's surface. It's not only a space souvenir, but it has become a tangible symbol and inspiration for future space exploration. Another example of a first is a vial of Janssen's COVID vaccine, the first and only Dutch vaccine that was developed and administered. But scientific progress is not only made by firsts. Most of the work scientists do is based on ordinary, off-the-shelf, mass-produced equipment, like Eppendorf pipettes, voltmeters, screwdrivers, etc. Funny thing is that you do not see these objects exhibited in science museums. And when you think about it, that's pretty weird. These ordinary objects are the unsung heroes of modern day science. But when you take a close look at them, they tell the story of how researchers work. It provides a look behind the scenes. Most of our audiences haven't seen a laboratory from the inside. How amazing it is then that a curator can provide a glimpse inside. Exhibited ordinary objects not only tell the story of unique events that made scientific history, but it also tells the audiences about daily scientific practice. That breakthrough events are only made possible by hundreds of and even thousands of scientific personnel all over the world to accomplish it. It shows that a lot of people like you and me work with ordinary objects to advance science, and that's what's having an impact on our society. Imagine this. Would it have been possible to develop a COVID vaccine at the incredible speed it was developed without these wordless pipette tips, petri dishes, plastic gloves, etc.? Another thing is, instruments might be black boxes when it comes to explaining how they function. Moving away from minds on and focusing on hearts on means that overlooked aspects of these instruments pop up. Not knowing how an instrument works doesn't mean that it can be beautiful. In the Boerhaave, we have a neutrino detector on display. It's an amazing object with its own and unique aesthetics. Here you can see the beauty of science at play. There is poetry in ordinary objects like hard disks and vaccine vials. Curators only have to make their audiences see it. Make them look. A disk pack is a disk pack unless it contains data from a black hole. People don't have to understand exactly what a black hole is. Every visitor in a science museum these days knows that there are black holes. Black holes have become part of our collective memory these days. In the same way as the first moonwalk is. Either it was done by Neil Armstrong or Michael Jackson. One small file, exhibited as a diamond, will draw the attention to the visitor. An ordinary object produced in billions, but displayed this way, must mean something. Curiosity is raised, and when a visitor finds out that this vial is the first administered COVID vaccine, a wow moment is created. And again, these little bottles are part of our collective memory. Let me give another example. A molecule model referred to as Feringer's car can be explained in the minds on matter. You know, this is the name of the molecule, and it consists of such and such atoms, and it's arranged in this specific way. But the amazing aspect, and that's what granted him the Nobel Prize, is that it moves as a car. Like ordinary cars, we know from our daily lives. So why not display this molecule in the context of a Formula One race? Ludicrous? Maybe. But international research groups do compete in Formula One style nanocar races. That's surprising, isn't it? In short, with surpassing and looking beyond the factual text labels, but encouraging looking instead of reading, audiences will be triggered to use their imagination more. Starting imagining a scientific concept means taking the first step in understanding the concept. It enables a better understanding and relates more to contemporary science and its impact on society today, and will inspire next generations of scientists. For audiences to harness the excitement of the science's ability to answer big questions means new ways of science communications. Minds-on and hands-on need to be infused with a little bit of poetry to reach the hearts-on of visitors, to enjoy and share the amazing adventure that science is.